Bull is a brawler who never saw play in competitive until Hypercharge, and Hypercharge was his saving grace. However, rather than just improving his power, Bull's Hypercharge let him play more like a fighter, as his kid intended. Let's take a look as to why. Bull is a tank that plays less like the traditional tank and more like a traditional fighter. He has great health and great damage up close, but struggles with approaching or dealing damage outside point blank, making him more of a juggernaut or diver. His main attack is your typical shotgun attack, which shoots pellets in a wide shape. This means his damage potential falls off quickly as he gets out of range, so he should ideally have some way to get in range and take out the enemy, and his health helps with this. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here, but trust me, this is completely relevant in determining Bull's analysis correctly. Now, I mentioned the Juggernaut and Diver classifications before. These classifications do not exist in Brawl. These two are part of the Fighter classification, which also does not exist. And there's a good reason for this. See, in Brawl Stars, the most optimal way to play competitively is to split each member of a team into a singular lane, either mid, left, or right. Each lane is fundamentally a different 1v1. So every single character must have a way of dealing with every other character. This is why, despite being a support, Poco can burst, and why most brawlers tend to have 7 to 8 tiles of range, while marksmen have 10. Even if your brawler is part of a class that gets hard countered by another brawler of another class, say Poco against Leon, Poco still must have a shot at defeating Leon. Every character must be self-sufficient. This is why the tank class isn't really defined in Brawl. Tanks in other games, like League of Legends, sacrifice damage output for heavy crowd control and great durability in order to make plays for their team to finish the kill. For example, a tank would soak up damage while stunning an enemy, and then a damage dealer would finish the job. But again, brawlers are self-sufficient. This means that brawlers cannot rely on teammates to make plays for them, since they have to be ready to make those plays by themselves. This is why the true tank class can't really exist in Brawl, at least not without damage-dealing capabilities, and those damage-dealing capabilities turn brawlers into fighters, since they have to sacrifice their crowd control for the sake of balance. That doesn't mean tanks do not exist, though. Meg and Hank are examples of true tanks, and while they might not apply crowd control in the form of stuns and slows, their attacks provide great zoning potential while keeping damage output, so they can still enable their teammates to make plays. I will cover these brawlers more in depth when their time comes. Anyway, that was a long tangent. Now, back to Bull. Bull's a fighter. We've established this at least. This means that we have to analyze him from the lens of a fighter. Not an assassin, not a tank, a fighter. I wanted to clear this up at the start of the video because I feel this brings a lot of misconceptions about how Bull should have been balanced. Anyway, he's more of a juggernaut, since he has more durability than he does mobility. Speaking of mobility, though, let's talk about his super. His super is a long charge in a straight, predictable pattern. He cannot be interrupted during charging, but he also cannot interrupt himself, except for when he uses his second gadget. This is important. Bull's super is not an approach tool, because Bull is not an assassin. This super allows him to engage the enemy by pressuring them to either move out of the way or be knocked back and have to deal with Bull. Well, here's the neat part about the super. Remember when I said he can't be interrupted? Well, he actually can be interrupted, either by unbreakable walls or the side of the map. The side of the map is important, since Bull is exclusively a lane brawler, since he definitely wouldn't survive mid-fights with his low range. He can aim his super diagonally to clear out the enemy's side of lane and make it more difficult for them to take him down. It still has a few flaws, though. For one, he doesn't get a shield when charging, so if you commit a bad charge, you get knocked out and have to respawn. Since Bull has low range, any brawler that outranges him immediately out of spawn will counter him, no matter what. His super does help gain ground after a loss, but you're done for if your enemy is an RT. This makes Bull a very high-risk, medium-reward pick. If you succeed, the enemy is pushed back heavily and even killed. If you find a wall, even better. The enemy can't push past you. I say medium reward because even with all this, there are other brawlers that can do this job better with less risk. And if you risk anything with Bull against the wrong enemy, you become useless. A common strategy to avoid this risk is by using Stomper to cancel a bad super, then assassinate the enemy. However, once Stomper's gadget uses run out, Bull's a sitting duck. Additionally, if Stomper were moved to the base kit, such that Bull would be able to cancel his super whenever he wanted, he would become a borderline assassin. This is not the solution. Well, let's talk about his Hypercharge. Bull's Hypercharge gives him an 80% shield when he is in his super, effectively letting him take 1/5 of the damage he would have taken otherwise. This effectively nullifies the risk of using his super offensively, which is great, since Hypercharge is an aggressive button. With it, Bull finally escaped the depths of the F tier and is now somewhat balanced. However, the great thing about it is that even if the Hypercharge is only active for 5 seconds, Bull can finally feel like a fighter. Thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or subscribe.